Hi there. In my last video I came in for quite a bit of criticism for using silver solder for the split rod end bushings, but if I was to do it again I'd probably use silver solder as opposed to soft solder, because in my experience I achieved a really thin layer of solder between the two halves, and it was ever so strong, and by the time I'd removed so much material I needed that strength to hold those two halves together. So like I say, if I was to do it again I'd probably use silver solder again as well. But anyway, thanks for all the suggestions, and as everybody knows, there's many ways to skin a cat. Anyway, in this video what I'm going to be doing is starting work on machining the cylinder head for the Farm Boy hit and miss. Okay, so this piece of aluminium is around about 2 inches in diameter, and I've had to put these outside jaws on the 3-jaw chuck to hold it in place, and to be honest there's not a lot gripping it there. It's pretty much clocked in, it's only a few thou out. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to face this end here, and I'm going to bring this down to a diameter that will fit into the normal jaws of the 3-jaw chuck, and then I'll switch it round and then start doing the proper machining. Well, that looks pretty good so far. So what I need to do is create a boss on here to fit inside the cylinder liner. Okay, so I'll try and explain this setup. This boss needs to be a nice fit within the cylinder. Now my cylinder is round about 1.074 of an inch. So I'm going to make this boss a diameter of 1.07. Now the actual diameter of this is 1.983, so that gives me 0.913. If I divide that by 2 I get 0.456. So using this dial here I'm going to move the cross slide in by 0.45 of an inch, so that'll give me a little bit to play with on the final cuts. And I'm going to cut at 10 thou increments at a time. Now I've set this depth stop here to be 0.1 of an inch in, so I'm going to use the carriage just to move the carriage in 10 thou at a time. And see how we get on. I've lost my counting now. That's on 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Bring it back. Go in by another 10th thou. And commence again. On 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so currently this diameter is 1.0935 and I've decided to aim for 1.072, which should be an okay fit within the cylinder liner. So that's a difference of 21 thou, or just over. So I'm just going to take 10 thou off this edge here and just check the fit. That feels pretty good. Happy with that. Okay, so unfortunately I've run out of thin parting blades and this is a bit on the thick side. So what I've done is I've just marked out where it needs to be parted off. And rather than part it off on the lathe, I'll cut it on the saw, on the bandsaw, and then I'll go over to the milling machine and mill it down to size. Well, that's cut pretty well, very happy with that. And this is a plate I made a while ago. So this is to hold a chuck on the rotary table. And goes on like that. And then there's these prongs that fit on like that. Or something like that. I'll show you it assembled. Well, the rotary table isn't really needed for this operation, I'm just sort of facing it to size. But it works great to hold this 3-jaw chuck. Okay, so I was planning to mark this up on the surface plate, but I'm struggling to hold it properly. So I'll just have to dial in the dimensions into the DRO and take it from there. So what I've done is I've put it back on the 3-jaw chuck on the rotary table, and I've zeroed the X and Y axis on the centre point. Now the first thing to do is to drill a couple of holes for the valve cages. Now the first one is in that position, so all I've done is I've moved the Y-axis sort of that way by let me see, 0.093 of an inch, and then I've moved the X-axis that way 0.235 of an inch. So once I've drilled and reamed that, I'll then move it to the other position on the other side. So hopefully this should be straightforward. Famous last words. So one thing I'm trying to do at the moment is use a collet chuck rather than a drill chuck, and hopefully I'll get more accuracy by doing that. And I received a comment recently about sort of drilling up in steps, and one guy suggested that you don't need to do that, you just centre drill and then go for the drill size that you need finally to drill with. But I've not got the bottle to do that at the moment, so I'm going to drill with 6mm drill bit, and then I'll drill 25/64. So for the rest of the machining on this side of the head, it was just a matter of following the drawing really, putting in the dimensions into the DRO and drilling. Apart from this one here, and that's where the spark plug needs to be tapped, and it's drilled at an angle, so I need to think about my approach on that. So it's probably one for me to have a think about overnight, and I'll get back to it tomorrow. Okay, so I've switched it round in the 3-jaw chuck, and I've just put this ruler on here across these two holes, and then eyeballed to make sure that this edge is parallel with the bed, and it is. So I'm happy it's sort of straight in the chuck. Now the idea here is to drill using a ball end mill, 3/8 of an inch one. Now I've not got a 3/8 of an inch one. This is 8mm, so my luck's sort of in, and it's a matter of drilling this 0.272 of an inch from the centre point. So I've moved the y-axis this way by that amount, and now it's just a matter of drilling to a depth of 0.285 of an inch. Well, having milled it, I'm not sure that 8mm is sort of large enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up with this 3/8 of an inch drill bit, and I'm just going to go to a depth of round about 0.150 of an inch. Okay, so now there's a requirement to drill and tap for the spark plug at a 20-degree angle. So this point here is that point there, and it'll come out hopefully in there, something like that. So I'll go over to the mill and try and set it up. Well, this has turned out to be a fairly convoluted affair. So what I've done is I've put some packing under here to get to roughly 20 degrees, and having done that, I've put a vice up against this packing to stop the packing from moving out. I've bolted the vice down, I've bolted the rotary table down, and stop the rotary table from moving at this side. I've locked the rotary table, so all I need to do now is to position the centre drill on the point where I need to start drilling. I'll centre drill and then start drilling up to the appropriate size diameters. Well, this is the little spark plug, and the thread on that is apparently 1/4x32. So I think the drill size for that is 5.5 millimeters. And when I drill through, I don't want to really drill beyond the cavity I've just made on the other side. So I think, based on this edge here, I think I need to drill to a depth of round about 0.63 of an inch, and hopefully that'll just come through into that cavity. But I'll do all this off camera because it's all getting a bit tight. Now, this is one of the fantastic advantages of this Waco WM18mm, and look at the amount of stuff I've got here between the bed and the spindle. Amazing, really. But anyway, I'm in the process of tapping for the spark plug. Well, I must say these spark plugs are minute. Amazing. I got mine from minimagneto.co.uk, based on the Isle of Wight. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed with myself because I think when I tapped the hole, or maybe when I opened it up, I think the table must have slipped just a tad. So when the spark plug is in, it's just a little bit off centre, which is a little bit annoying. Anyway, I've turned this socket down so it can get down the side and nip it up. Looks great on the other side. Looks perfect. So what's outstanding with this is to make some valve cages out of some phosphor bronze, and I think you might call them valve guides as well, because that's what the valves run in. And once they've been made and installed, press fit I believe, then you start drilling ports. So I'm going to cover that in part 2 of the video, but so far so good. Well, that sort of turned out okay, but I am annoyed with myself with that spark plug not exactly spotting the middle. But I think once it's all assembled on the engine, I don't think it'll be overly obvious. Everything else seems to have worked out fine, and I'm looking forward to making these valve guides. And I'm also starting to think about valves. Now, I know nothing about making valves. In fact, I know nothing really about making cylinder heads. But I think the valves can be quite challenging because they've got to be absolutely spot on. So if anybody's any ideas on that, I'd really appreciate it. I'm thinking at the moment of maybe using silver solder to join the sort of like valve stem with the valve head, if that's the right terminology. But anyway, like I say, if anybody's any ideas on that, I'd really appreciate it. But hope you like the results so far, and I hope to see you later.